Venice, Italy. It conjures up feelings of amore. Venice is a fairy tale come to life. It inspires wonderment as travelers gaze at it in awe. It's a surreal fantasy of ornamentation. Its fragile buildings, surrounded by a labyrinth of canals, appear to float on the water. Once a mighty naval power, its history is rich in conquest and trade. Join us as we explore the treasures of Italy's Venice. Located in northern Italy, Venice is the capital of the Veneto region. Come with us as we explore the charm of what Napoleon once called Europe's drawing room or place of relaxation. Discover the rich history of St. Mark's Basilica and the Doge's Palace. We'll explore Venetian nightlife, including the culinary delights of Venetian cuisine, and see what remains of Venice's seafaring history, the iconic and elegant gondolas. Venice, or Venezia as the Italians call it, is also known as the floating city, queen of the Adriatic, La Serenissima, most serene. You can train directly from the mainland over the causeway to the Venice train station. From there, most catch a vaporetto, a kind of floating bus to the part of Venice they wish to get to. You can also water taxi from Marco Polo International Airport to a number of different stops in Venice. The city originally began as a refuge for people fleeing the invasion of Attila the Hun. Italy was falling into anarchy, and the Venetian lagoon offered the protection of the surrounding waters, a kind of giant moat. It's made up of little islands, but most of the buildings were erected on piles driven into the muddy bed under the water. It took the Venetians a while to perfect this building technique, with many structures collapsing into the water before they mastered it. The wooden piles used have since petrified. The result is this ornate city connected by 400 bridges across more than 150 canals with a combined length of 38 miles or 61 kilometers. This is the Grand Canal, Venice's main arterial waterway. It has no cars and is one of the most unique streets in the world. And on every canal there are gondolas, 400 of them in total. So, with 38 miles of canals, that's 10.5 gondolas per mile. Yes, paying for a ride on one might be a bit touristy, but who cares? Just surrender to the experience and enjoy the city as you graciously float through it. Before Britannia ruled the waves, Venice did. Venetians used to identify themselves as great seagoing traders and conquerors of an entire empire. Using an early version of the production line, its shipyards were once capable of producing a warship every day. But now the gondolas are all that remain of their rich nautical history. Its naval conquests and trading routes extended throughout the Adriatic, Ionian, Mediterranean and Aegean seas, as far as Greece and all the way to Turkey's Istanbul. But it wasn't just wealth from Venetian traders that enriched the city. There were also great Venetian explorers like Marco Polo, who made it all the way to China, became a personal and trusted friend of Kublai Khan, and brought back Chinese inventions like gunpowder. It's easy to get around Venice by foot or by water using the vaporetto or water taxis. If getting around by water, you'll see visible evidence of how wealthy the Venetian merchants became. There are palaces lining the canals, with warehouses for their businesses at the water level and luxurious marble-lined residences above. You can still see the chandeliers through the windows today. Many are now hotels. Everywhere you go, you'll notice the winged lion, symbol of Venice and of the great trading empire it once dominated. The centre of Venice is St. Mark's Square, with a number of landmarks and attractions, including St. Mark's Basilica itself, the Campanile, the two Moors that ring the bell at the top of the hour, and the Doge's Palace. The square is a common meeting point and place to gather. St. Mark was the patron saint of Venice, and what are believed to be his remains are preserved here. The Basilica, named after him, dominates St. Mark's Square, which Italians simply call San Marco. Originally built between 829 and 836, then rebuilt from 1063, it was completed and consecrated in 1094. Its design is a fusion of architectural styles with a mixture of Byzantine, Romanesque, and Gothic influences. But before you enter, stop. Gaze at and appreciate the artistry of its facade. And as you do this, you'll notice the magnificent horses of St. Mark, 4 bronze horses standing over the entrance almost as if to guard it. These were taken as part of the booty from the sacking of Constantinople in 1204 during one of the Crusades. The horses you see on display outside are not the originals, they're actually reproductions. The originals are here, displayed inside, just behind these copies to preserve them. You can climb to this terrace to view the horses up close, while sitting and enjoying the elevated vista of the square below. Inside the Basilica, the thing that you'll notice straight away are the richly decorated images made up of golden mosaic tiles depicting biblical scenes, saints, and prophets. The interior evolved over the centuries due to repeated repairs and touch-ups, and, like the architecture itself, is an eclectic mix of styles, primarily Byzantine and Renaissance. When you stand at a distance, it's not at first easy to see the painstaking detail the artists dedicated years of their lives to. But when you examine the works up close, you begin to appreciate their skill and passion for the work they were commissioned to do. Surely, the lengths they went to demonstrates not just their skill, but their faith. You'll also see a display of rare books hundreds of years old and preserved for us to appreciate today. Opposite the Basilica is the Campanile. A campanile is a freestanding bell tower that is separated from its cathedral. You have to buy tickets and queue to take the elevator to the top. And it's worth it. The views of Venice from there will take your breath away. From here you can see the entrance to the Grand Canal, and there's San Giorgio Maggiore, the Doge's Palace, St. Mark's Basilica, and St. Mark's Square below. The Palace of the Doge was built in 1340 and has undergone a number of modifications since then. As you enter the courtyard, you'll see statues, this font, and at the top of the stairs, Mars on the left and Neptune on the right. Once again, we see the symbol of Venice, the winged lion. The palace was the residence of the Doge, the rulers of Venice. Their power was not absolute, however. The local nobles, made up of around 20 to 30 families, elected them to power through a complex process. And while the Doge had the highest role of authority, even presiding over their assembly, the real power lay with the nobles. Eventually, the resulting Great Council numbered 300 to 400, and successive Doges were subject to more bureaucracy as their role became increasingly ceremonial. There were 120 Doges in total. The 55th Doge was executed in 1355 for attempting a coup to take absolute power. And the last Doge abdicated in 1797 when Napoleon Bonaparte's French army entered Venice. The halls were intentionally decorated as lavishly as possible to inspire the Great Council when making important decisions of state. Room after room in the palace is a display of frescoes framed with gold. Some paintings boast Venice's mighty naval power, like this one of the Battle of Lepanto, depicting Venice's victory over the Ottomans in an epic battle of 400 ships. Connecting the palace to the prison is the Bridge of Sighs. After being convicted in the palace, criminals were taken across the bridge to their incarceration. They would sigh as they got one last look at their beloved lagoon before being locked away. To engage the tourists, it's been said that if you kiss your loved one while travelling under the Bridge of Sighs, your love will last forever. Although, one can't help but wonder how they concocted this tradition from a bridge with such a gloomy history. But for at least one inmate, the story ended well. This is where the great lover, Casanova, was imprisoned. He escaped from here and ran over the rooftops of Venice to freedom. Venice is famous for its glass. As you explore the streets, you'll see lots of shops displaying famous glass art, glass vases, and glass chandeliers. You'll also pass stores that are temples of exclusive fashion and wonderful confectionery. Not to mention every imaginable souvenir where you can shop for that little bit of Venice to take back home with you. Perhaps a piece of Venetian glass to display, wear, or seal that wine bottle with. And then there are the shops selling masks. In addition to the glass stores, you'll also see shops selling these very fancy icons of Venetian culture. These are worn in the Carnival, held early each year in the lead up to Lent. The tradition, thought to date back to 1162, allowed the people of Venice to indulge in all kinds of pleasures incognito. Today, Carnival, held from late January to mid-February, attracts around 3 million visitors each year who come to see a city of people donning wearable art. If the shops are giving your credit card a little too much exercise, there's always the food. There are wonderful cafes and eateries everywhere, from traditional Italian pizza, to luxurious scampi on a bread of pasta, to fish so fresh you'll salivate out of longing at the very memory of it. And if you really want that once-in-a-lifetime culinary treat, go to the St. Regis, an exclusive luxury hotel overlooking the entrance of the Grand Canal. Its bar has been voted one of the best in the world. And its food, well, it's to die for. Also overlooking the entrance of the Grand Canal is the Accademia Bridge. The Accademia Bridge is one of only 4 bridges crossing the Grand Canal. Its original steel structure, opened in 1854, was demolished and replaced by this wooden one in 1933, despite pressure to build a stone one. From here we can see the dome of Santa Maria della Salute, conspicuously dominating the entrance of the Grand Canal. Once you've crossed over to the south end of the bridge, the streets and lanes are a delight to explore. As you wander through the lanes and by the canals, you can see structures that are crooked and visibly leaning. It reminds you that Venice is slowly sinking. Yet in an ironic twist, the fragile nature of these buildings is what seems to add to the charm. This side of Venice still has interesting shops, eateries and architecture to marvel at. And every now and then you'll find the lanes open onto a delightful square. It's a lot quieter on this side, being slightly off the beaten track. Until you get to the Rialto, that is. The Rialto Bridge is the oldest of the 4 bridges spanning the Grand Canal. It was built a number of times since its original 1173 version and is today the product of the Renaissance period. Its designer, Antonio de Ponte, won a competition for the design of the bridge we see today, beating Michelangelo amongst other competitors. It is perhaps the most recognizable bridge in Venice and features a double row of shops which you can browse while crossing. Standing in the middle of the bridge, we can see cafes offering perfect views of the Grand Canal, while diners sit back and watch life going by, Venetian style. From here, it's a short stroll back to St. Mark's Square. And at night, Venice becomes a whole new, dreamy fairyland. Return to the Rialto Bridge to dine at these cafes by night and see Venice in a whole new, magical light. Gondola watching, people watching, all while losing yourself in some decadent culinary delight and wondering if there is any other place like this fantasy on earth. After dinner, stroll to St. Mark's Square for that last time and be enchanted as you listen to the quintets in different corners, playing classical music, traditional Italian songs, and even popular classics. Even Ed Sheeran is played the Italian way. You can watch, listen, and savor both the champagne and this unique, precious, and utterly beautiful treasure of the world.